Hello, and welcome to The Power of You, a virtual conversation with women around the world. I am Dawn Cooper Barnes, your host. In this episode, I want to introduce you to Brenda Brewer Moore, a Liberian woman barely in her 40s who could teach us a masterclass in becoming the best version of ourselves. Let's listen to her as she describes her childhood in Liberia during the Civil War, running from place to place to the Ebola crisis when she founded an organization called KEEP, Kids Education Engagement Project. She is not perfect, but she has an excellent strategy for becoming the best version of herself. How do you see yourself? Tell me about you.
So I would say thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this dream that you are giving birth to. I foresee it, going places and being something that people will want to eagerly participate in and also watch over time. Starting anything of such nature is never easy. So I commend you for thinking about it. It's one thing to think about something, it's something entirely different to bring it into actuality. So I commend you for this. My name is Brenda Brewer Moore, and about me, I'm always, one of the things is always difficult to talk about yourself.
It is difficult.
I'm from a very large family, a very, very large family. My mother was the late athlete Anderson Subwood. She was married first to my father, Robert Harding Brewer. And then that marriage didn't last. I was the product of that marriage. And then she remarried to Counselor J. Lavla Superwood. And she had two other children by him. So just that means I grew up in a very large family because there's the Brewers, there's the Andersons, and there's the Superwoods and all of that. But my childhood was one that was very interesting, just because of the work my stepfather, Counselor Supu, was engaged in. He was back in the 80s, a very vocal activist around human rights. And in fact, the term they had for him was poor man's lawyer. In fact, he still is a poor man's lawyer. He was always championing the underdog and always championing, rights cases and for free, in a way, women's lawyer. But because of that, in my early years, one of my earliest memories are of running and hiding from the Dole regime. And that meant sometimes sleeping at different houses, different nights. And so that's a major part of what I remember from my childhood. Then the Civil War struck, and then he was then aligned with the Charles Taylor's government. And that meant us, relocating to another part of the country that we hadn't lived in before. And then that opened up a whole different world for me as a teenager and a young girl. I had come from living somewhere where there was a different environment, and then now living somewhere else where it was very different. I remember starting my own garden, harvesting my garden and going to sell in the market, walking long distances to school with other kids of my age. I also remember hiding a lot again because, again, he fell out with the Charles Taylor regime. And so a lot of my childhood, teenage years was just moving a lot, changing schools a lot, changing locations a lot. But grew up into a young lady. One of the things I remember from back then that I always tell people about is me just feeling as a teenager that I needed to do more, like I needed to do something. And being stuck in the house all day during the war, I had to read a lot. And the house we were in, the house had a lot of books. And I just remember exploring the world from a little room in Bon County, just reading about places and just saying, oh, I would love to see this place for myself. But also wanting to do something as a child and seeing how I could help my country, but having no clue absolutely on what it could be. But that seed was planted in Bon County during the war. I became a young miss, married, had kids, and I remember the first time I really had an opportunity to do something was when my cousin, the late Vicky Ward, started her girls program. And when she hit me up with it, she said, "Look, I live in the US and I want to start a girls mentoring program. And is this something you'd be interested in?" And I said, "Sure." And I talked to her mentorship program like it was my own. And she had contacted five other women, so we're six mentors, but because, different schedules and different, priorities, I ended up becoming the only mentor for several years with these girls. And I really liked it. And then I feel that like that seed that was planted back in the war just started germinating. Um, I decided to go back to school for my master's, and then I too kind of lost track with the program. But then Ebola struck, and I started homeschooling my kids. Schools were shut down, and that's when I saw in the whole seed, I think, germinated finally. And I started, giving back to my country, and being a part of the development. So even after Ebola ended and schools were reopened, I felt like it's not enough for us as citizens to complain and complain. What isn't there? I said, even if it's just one thing that I can do, I'm going to try to do it, because then at least it makes me feel like I'm not just a complainer. And that's how really KEEP was birthed in the organization, Kids Education Engagement Project. KEEP was birthed in what it is now. Yeah, so that's me in a nutshell. I have a master's degree in business. I studied business all through. I have two small businesses that I run currently, a snail farm, a snail business, as well as an African gift shop. And the idea of the gift shop really is to provide people a space where they can experience the culture and art from across Africa in one space, because it's not everyone is not going to have the opportunity to fly to Tanzania. But if you come to my shop, my dream is that you come there and see an art that's from Tanzania, and you'll be able to say, "Oh, this art is from Tanzania." You can buy it, and making them affordable also. So it's a business, but I'm not marking the prices up so much that it becomes prohibitive from ordinary Liberians who can afford to have a $50 gift, in their home, or to gift someone with it. I'm the executive director of KEEP. I'm a women's rights activist. I'm a published author of 5 children's books currently. Few of them have been made into the national reading list. What else?
Well, what I am amazed by is how well educated you are, how articulate you are. And then you're explaining that you actually grew up during the war years in Liberia, when I know that schools were very sporadic. But what I can say is it's amazing to me that you were able to get so well educated. I think you can attribute some of that to your own reading, but your stepfather,
I can attribute a lot of it to reading.
Just reading on your own. That is amazing.
Reading.
So you were mostly in Liberia.
I always tell people jokingly that I don't think I learned anything in school after 6th grade, because I always thought I don't think I learned anything really in school after 6th grade, because I spent so much time reading. And I remember that my mom, when I was disobedient, whatever, she would, have me do time out, and she would say, "Stay in your room, stay in your room for 3 days." Or, she would feed me, but she'd be like, "Stay in your room." And it took her a while to catch on that it was not a punishment, because I'm like, yo.
I like that. Yes.
And so she would have me, "No play, don't talk to your friends, don't do this. You stay in this room for 3 days." And then when I knew that the deadline is going to start at 6 p.m., I would stock up on books, and I would just be in that room. Jay, can you imagine? You don't have to do housework. You don't have to talk to nobody. You don't have to do anything. You're just there reading, and then food gets thrown in your room. Like, that's the ultimate punishment. Like, yo.
So how did you happen? This just happened to be a home that you all moved into that was already a huge library. What happened
during the war was that people would get displaced. So we left Monrovia. My family left Monrovia and relocated to Bone County, specifically on the Cary compound, where they had the Research Institute for Agriculture. And apparently the home we moved into was previously inhabited by an older couple that had a study. And these people had a wide variety of books. They had encyclopedias. They had, I think the guy was a lawyer because he had a whole lot of law books. He had, I mean, just any kind of books you could think about. They didn't have children books, but they were all adult books. And so, what's also interesting is I used to read the law case studies. I found them very interesting. And so I will be reading about past cases, and so where people will find it difficult to read, like King James version, I found it very easy because I felt if I would read law reviews,
Wow.
So I read a lot of those kind of books. I was reading encyclopedias. I was just, there was not much to do. And so it was just read and just read.
Well, so tell us then, I'm sure that's what inspired you to do the KEEP program. So tell us exactly what the model of the KEEP program is that you do.
Okay, thank you. So Ebola struck 2014. This is a new disease we had no history about. We don't even know how to fight. And so basically our country came to a standstill. I had two kids. I still have them. I had two young kids at the time, and I was working, but my office had given us a staggered work schedule. So you could go in certain days and, works half days, certain days. So I would prepare worksheets for my kids that I would leave with them, work a little bit, like an hour or two every morning, leave the worksheets with them, go into work, come back in the afternoon, review. But then what I realized was that going to work, coming home, the kids in my community were just playing. They were just idle because schools have been shut down by the government as a way to stop the spread of the Ebola virus. So what I did was I come home one of these days and I see the kids playing, and it was like deja vu for me all over, because I felt like, okay, my kids are stuck home now. They can go out. They're much younger. These kids, they're kind of stuck home as well. So I felt guilty, like, Brenda, you're sitting in a place of privilege where you were able to print out lessons and keep your kids engaged academically, but what's happening to the kids in your immediate environment? So I asked my husband when he came in that evening, like, look, I'm thinking about something. I'm thinking about doing this, taking the same lessons that I'm doing with our kids to other kids in the community. And I want you to let me know what you think about it, because this is a very scary time with bodies in the streets and people dying within days of contracting the virus. And then your wife comes to you and say, I want to go out there. But he said to me, I think it's a great idea. And not only do you have my okay to do it, but I'm going to come along with you. And so that's how we started printing out the lessons and taking them to the kids in our immediate community, and with funds from our family. But then I realized several things the first time. One, we underestimated the number of children in the community. We thought maybe 75 kids. It was a whole lot more than 75 kids. Two, that was going to be very expensive, very fast. And at three, there were a lot of people who really wanted to help during Ebola, but they didn't know how they could help. They weren't medical professionals. And so when I did this call for support on my social media page, a lot of people came in and said, this is a great idea. So how can we help? So I said, well, we're going to need volunteers. We're going to need, paper. We're going to need crayons, because what I was doing was matching the worksheets to the Liberian school curriculum. So grade 1 will have a lesson for this week. Grade 2 will have another lesson for this week, and so forth. And it just quickly spread after that, because communities started hearing about us. They would call us, they would bring in, they would connect us with the community champion, who would be like a focal person who would then connect with, then our team of volunteers would come. Then at the end of the week, we would come and check the lessons, give a new set, leave little sweets as motivation for the kids, work with some of the parents to see, why the kids weren't doing certain homework, whether the parent didn't have the capacity to tutor the child or something. And it spread so fast. And I remember now telling everybody that come December 2014, I'm done. Like, it was a lot of coordination, because we ended up going to over 50 communities around the country and reaching over 7,000 kids. And so for me, it was like, this is way too much work. After December, I am done. But then December came, and this organization, Action Aid International, that said, look, we like the model that you're doing. It's so organic, it's so community-based, and, it's so different from the medical response. And so we want to work with you to see if we can do some of this in our communities that we work in as well. And so then that just started um ripple effect. Yes, because then I had to register the organization. They wanted to work with a credible, registered organization in order to write the check that they're going to give us the funds for in the organization's name. So then I had to register the organization. Then I had to open an account, and then next thing you know, we have a fully registered, accredited nonprofit organization. And so when Ebola ended officially and schools were reopened, we had done a lot of fundraising. But what we realized was, I said to myself, because a group of us, was not just me, it was Wade Powell, it was my husband, it was Chico Wapo, it was like Dr. Ajami, Dr. Supu, Dr. Richard Do, what about a group of us, like just coming together and doing this. And I said to them, look, Ebola has ended, but we still have some money. What can we do, to close this up, or what can we do post Ebola? And one problem that we had realized that cut across all of the communities, whether it was Monserrato, Grand Gita, Papulu, was that the kids struggle to read. So they would do the coloring pages, they would do the mathematical assignments, but then when it came to the reading assignments, most of them wouldn't touch the assignments. And when we started to ask questions, they said the reading was hard. So I said, okay, maybe, okay. But then so we'll take sixth graders, we'll give sixth graders fifth grade reading assignments. They still struggled. We gave sixth graders fourth grade reading lessons. They still struggled. We had to bring it down sometimes as low as second and third grade before our sixth graders could read at the US sixth grade level. And then I was like, whoa, we have a problem. We have a systemic problem. The teachers that we had recruited as volunteers themselves were struggling to read. And so I said, okay, this can be something that we as a small group of professionals can contribute towards, long term. Can we make reading our agenda, like promoting a culture of reading? And so right now you don't have a culture of reading. You have a culture of video clubs. You have a culture of, football games. Those are not bad things, but if we want a more literate society, we have to cultivate a culture of reading. And so then we did a quick survey and found that with some of the communities we are working in, spoke to some of the schools, and they're like, we don't have libraries. If you're going to encourage reading, we don't have books. Okay, so where can we get books? Then at Such Maruga, we don't have bookstores. Oh my God. So then it just became like a whole big problem, complicated problem that you couldn't just solve by just saying, I'm going to promote reading. And then so we had to sit down and come up with a strategic plan on how we're going to promote reading. And that's how we came, okay, so we create reading spaces, not going to go in libraries, mini libraries. We're just going to go in reading rooms or mini libraries and put a variety of books in there that brought back my childhood experience of being locked up, confined to a space of reading, and have them able to explore the world from whatever location that they were in. So we created our first room, opened our first room in 2016. And it's been a lot of hassle, a lot of stress. But in September this year, September, October, I can't remember which, September, October, we actually launched our 25th reading room across Liberia. And I was like, 25 rooms in 4 years. That's yo.
You're making it sound incredibly easy because everything seems to grow out of the last thing. But I know that it was a challenge. At every step, it took all of your tenacity to make it keep going. And I think the most beautiful thing about it is that you saw a need. And you took on a challenge. It was not as if you created something without first seeing the need. The whole thing about Ebola was an inspiration for you to now start academic things. Realizing that the kids could not read is a whole reason. Yeah. And your own experience. I couldn't help thinking about the biography of Malcolm X and how he was in jail and learned and empowered himself by reading. Yes. So reading has been, I do think it opens up the world. I want to ask you this. Liberians speak their own version of English. In many ways, it is a dialect of English comprised of English words, French words, African languages, all mixed into something that we commonly refer to as colloqua. It is very similar to the way in which Jamaicans, for example, speak their pidgin, or Haitians speak Creole. It is Liberian colloqua. There are some problems with colloqua in that many Liberians only speak colloqua, in the same way that many African Americans are only able to speak what used to be referred to as Ebonics. People pigeonhole you, people typecast you, people don't understand you. But yet it's a special way of communicating. I asked Brenda what she thought about Liberian colloqua versus standard English.
What I like speaking colloquial, speaking standard English. There are certain places that requires you speaking standard English. But I'll tell you this, and I know how important it is if we're supposed to train our kids to be able to interact with the world outside of Liberia. But having said that, two things. One, when I'm teaching, when we're doing reading sessions in our reading rooms, I encourage them to read in English, in the standard English. But what I've realized is that when they read a passage from the book, do I have enough of my books here? When they read a passage from the book, for example, to get them to explain what they've just read in standard English, they will understand it, but then they will struggle to put it back in standard English. So oftentimes I tell them, explain it to me the way you understand it. Just how you understand it, just not and that way you understand it, explain it to me. Because right there, they're like, the man said, the man was climbing in the tree. The man said he was climbing in the tree and then he saw. But my goal here is for them to read, to understand, to comprehend what they've just read, to recognize the words that they're reading, and to tell me a story about what they just read. What did they think about it? So my approach to reading, sometimes I understand from the people who have education degrees, is not the best, because they think that, they should be able to read in standard English and respond in standard English, but their brains at this point is not structured that way.
Brenda is the first to admit that her success in life is in large measure a tribute to her husband and the kind of relationship that they share. Their relationship is all the more exceptional because they are in an African culture where male chauvinism is probably the rule more so than the exception. Brenda explains how their relationship has allowed her to soar.
My youthful years, it was a lot about pleasing other people to my detriment. And so I think as I've gotten older, I've been more deliberate about, no, this doesn't make me happy. I'm not finding joy in this. I'm not going to do it. And being at peace with myself for saying no. I think it's only something that maturity, you get with maturity over time. I hope for most people. For me, I found that I liked that, just accepting that, this doesn't make me happy, and so I'm not going to do it. And it took me a while to get there, but I'm there now, and I'm unapologetic about it as well. And that has been, as a mother, an African mother, as a Liberian mother, as a Liberian wife, balancing a lot of things, people sometimes society imposes a lot of expectations on us. And I think having the kind of relationship that my husband and I has, I don't think I would ever have been the person I am today if I've been married to somebody else, because we have such a balance that it's so great. We're not perfect, but this man, I don't like kitchen. I do not like kitchen. I don't pass my kitchen in and out, and I don't like kitchen, and I don't like cooking. I don't like housework, and we joke about it, but the balance is that he loves these things. He does not mind cooking really well. If the kids will eat once and the food will remain there. If my husband cooks, they'll go for seconds and thirds. And in fact, they won't even last. And we're cool with that, and just having that partner also that makes me feel happy about being ambitious. And that's not something that a lot of our African spouses, encourage, like you going all over the place. You on world news. You here. You're traveling, and I'm here. I'm a cool. I'm man enough. It doesn't change my name. That really has also helped me as a woman, an African Liberian woman, to be.
No one is perfect. Brenda has spent a lot of time trying to strike the right balance. She's most concerned with spending enough time with her children.
Um, making more time to be with my kids. There never seems to be enough time because I'm always doing things for others. And it's something that haunts me a lot because growing up as my mother was a woman of God, a reverend. And I felt as a young miss that she had time for everybody else. She invested in a lot of people that I'm enjoying today. She planted a lot of seeds that I'm harvesting on her behalf now. But the process of planting those seeds meant that she was always available for other people, I felt, than for me. And I find that it's like history repeating itself, and so I constantly have to remind myself that I need to be deliberate and intentional about making time to spend with my kids, and whether it means putting it on my schedule, like hangout time, conversation time. In the sense, I will put a meeting with Dawn Barnes time, like just put it there so that it's a part of my schedule. Finding other creative ways that we can spend time together too, so that I don't always feel guilty. So, for example, I have to come and hang out with me after school here. My son has a vacation job that he gets paid for. He hangs out with me all day at the office, and so he gets to see what my working life is like. He runs errands for me. The same thing with my daughter, making time for movies. But those are things that, I feel as a woman, as a mother, are never enough. Like I still feel like I'm giving, I'm not giving them the full. If I had a regular 9 to 5 job, would I be more available for them? So those are some of the things. Even with my husband, like, would I spend more time? That's some of the things that makes me feel like I'm imperfect.
I asked Brenda if she had any final words.
What are the things my energies are going towards right now? They're building my 2 small businesses. Over the years, I've had many businesses, and they all fell by the wayside, not because they weren't lucrative, but just because I lost interest. And that's another story for another day. But the 2 businesses that I run right now, they have a lot of potential. So I mentioned earlier that I run a snail farm. And in addition to that, I sell processed snails. And I'm excited to say that when I started it last year, there wasn't anybody else doing it. So I prepared the snails, clean it, de-slime it, everything, and then have them packaged and sold in the supermarkets. Based on the demand from customers in Liberia, we started preparing the snails ready to eat out of the pack. So we now have, and that business is called J&A Delicacies. Snails are a big delicacy here, much in demand, and unfortunately, it's a seasonal. It's only available during certain seasons, and so what I've tried to do is to create a farm that would supply me all year round. And that's proven to be very successful, and a lot of learning opportunities there. I'm looking into for year 2 to go more into export, because that's where the money really is. And then with the gift shop, is proven again, I feel like a gift shop suits my Sagittarian soul for travel and adventure. So the process of, curating things from different African countries, suits that alone time, that shopping, that exploring different cultures, but at the same time, having an income that, can subsidize whatever other things I'm involved with. So I'm hoping to see that really grow in the next couple of years and get to a place where that I'm not constantly, stressing over little things, and establishing networks within the entire Africa where with a phone call, I can have a 700-pound box being delivered in 2 weeks, that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to stuff like that. I'm looking forward to seeing my organization keep working outside of me. So I've started stepping back more and more and getting my team to take over more of the work, and pushing our government to take ownership of its role. We shouldn't have civil society organizations building libraries. We should have our government budgeting for libraries, and being deliberate and intentional about putting money in the budget and saying it's to create, 10 libraries and not waiting for a donor
Mhm.
to provide money for 10 libraries. And so those are some of the things I'm pushing my energies around, saying how if I can get some of those things accomplished, pushing the government to budget more for libraries, seeing how the schools can take ownership of them. I will really be happy, because it means outside of us, these things will still run. And it also means that our regional plan as a group to promote reading would really be actualized in not just a dream, because now we've gone from nationally having reading as a topic taught twice in the school week to now 5 times. And that's because of the constant engagement with the government and constantly talking about reading and the impact of reading. I'm hoping you're able to get a lot more diverse group of women. I don't know if you're targeting only Liberian women, but it would be nice to hear from other cultures and other women to, learn from them as well. And I wish you all the best as you go through this beautiful podcast cast process.
Thank you so much. And you know what? And that is all I needed as encouragement, because I know literally a lot of women from a lot of different cultures that have done all kinds of incredible things. And with that encouragement, maybe I'll engage some of them. And thank you so much for your time. Your story is fascinating. Based on Brenda's encouragement, I've decided that in future I will be interviewing women around the world. I've been blessed to have so many friends from east to west, from Asia to Europe to Africa to America to South America, all over the world. Fascinating women that I've met in my life's journey. I'll be bringing more interviews to you from women around the world. And until then, I encourage you to find the power of you. See you next time.